From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s three-day state visit to Cambodia yielded 5 business agreements and 3 government-to-government deals aimed at strengthening economic and bilateral relations between Manila and Phnom Penh. In his arrival message upon returning to Manila, President Marcos reported his productive engagements with Cambodian leaders and top businesses, which centered on future collaborations and cooperation in key areas. President Marcos said discussions during his meeting with the business community have culminated in strategic partnerships, marked by the signing of 5 business agreements focused on sectors such as aviation, logistics, and women-led micro, small, and medium enterprises. He said the business deals would pave the way for exploring market opportunities for Philippine exports of products and services, as well as for fostering institutional partnerships for two nations' business associations.
I have returned from my state visit to Cambodia, where I had a constructive exchange with, amongst others, Acting Head of State and Senate President Hun Sen on advancing our bilateral relations across key sectors and fora. I also met with Prime Minister Han Manet, and we underscored the mutual regard that we place on our close bilateral and multilateral cooperation. In our efforts to strengthen our respective economies and that of our region, we highlighted our collective interest to bolster intra-ASEAN trade through enhancing market access. We had a productive engagement with the top businesses in Cambodia, together with our official business delegation, where our discussions focused on our complementary strengths and how both sides can offer each other unique opportunities for growth and for market diversification. Our discussion resulted in strategic partnerships through the signing of 5 business agreements. They are in the sectors of mutual interest, such as aviation, logistics, women-led MSMEs, exploration of market opportunities for Philippine exports of products and services, and institutional partnerships for our business associations.
In 2024, total trade between the Philippines and Cambodia reached $105.69 million. 3 key agreements were also signed between the Philippines and Cambodian governments, covering police cooperation, higher education, and air connectivity. President Marcos emphasized that the two nations seek a more responsive collaboration to address the evolving security challenges facing the region. He said Manila and Phnom Penh have also agreed to work extensively on the prevention of illegal recruitment and trafficking in persons.
As ASEAN remains one of the most economically dynamic regions of the world, and its middle class continues to strengthen, we have seen intense travel and exchanges amongst our people. We need to enable and strengthen the nodes of connectivity to support the further development of the ASEAN community. And while we open doors for tourism and cultural exchanges and reap the benefits of regional integration, we also recognized the emerging security threats in our region. In this regard, we affirmed our determination to fight criminal elements that misuse technology and exploit our peoples. To improve our cooperation in addressing transnational crimes, we agreed to update our bilateral agreement to make it more responsive to the evolving security issues facing our region. Likewise, we recognize the need to update our agreement in the field of migrant workers' welfare and employment to stress our common conviction to work extensively in the prevention of illegal recruitment and trafficking in persons. I also took the opportunity to express my appreciation for Cambodia's support for the Philippines' bid for a non-permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council and for the Philippines ASEAN chairship in 2026. Any visit, of course, would not be complete without honoring the valued contributions of our hardworking, talented, and dedicated Filipino community in Cambodia. And we had a very warm and friendly visit with them in Phnom Penh. I shared with them the current developments in the Philippines to uplift the quality of life for every Filipino.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. stressed the need for continued cooperation between the Philippines and Cambodia as he acknowledged the two nations' stronger bilateral relations. In a media interview before departing from Phnom Penh, President Marcos said his three-day state visit to Cambodia has opened many new avenues of cooperation with the Cambodian government and business community. President Marcos, however, acknowledged that much more needs to be done, noting that total trade between the Philippines and Cambodia only reached $100 million, significantly lower than the Phnom Penh's $10 billion in bilateral trade with Vietnam. The president added that he and Cambodian leaders, including acting head of state and Senate President Hun Sen and Prime Minister Han Manet, have very much to discuss between the Philippines and Cambodia. President Marcos said he also assured Cambodia of the Philippines' readiness to provide assistance amid Phnom Penh's border dispute with Thailand. He added that the Philippines will be delegating 5 observers that will join the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Observer Group, to ensure that all the arrangements to resolve the conflict will eventually be observed properly by both sides.
Layo pa lang pwede paratingan. Of course, hindi maiwasan na mapag-usapan yung problema ngayon na nangyayari between Cambodia and Thailand in their border region na may clashes between the two countries. So, paulit-ulit namin sinasabi, basta ang Pilipinas at saka yung ASEAN, nandito kami upang tumulong. At dahil pareho kayong kaibigan namin, we are friends with both Cambodia and Thailand, we are all members of ASEAN, ayaw natin makikita na magkakaproblema ang mga member states of ASEAN. Kaya't naman, lagi kong pinapaliwanag na the Philippines is ready to play any role that will be of assistance to strengthen the ceasefire, number one, and eventually to come to a final solution, bad word, come to a final resolution of the problem between between Thailand and Cambodia.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said that 225 billion pesos in funds originally allotted for locally funded flood control projects in the proposed 2026 budget will instead be redirected to education, health, and other pressing needs. The president explained that the 2025 flood control budget of 350 billion pesos has been delayed by ongoing investigations, making the 2026 allocation unnecessary. Foreign-assisted flood projects worth around 50 billion pesos will continue. President Marcos said the realignment aims to maximize the use of savings and address urgent social needs.
Then we will spend it on other things. There was a budget of 350 billion for 2025. Because of all of these allegations, investigations that are occurring, na-delay lahat yan. So hindi matatapos yung 350 billion in 2025. So we will use the continuing appropriation for next year. And yung savings, it's going to be about 225 billion. It's actually, ang flood control for next year is about 275 billion. But some of that is foreign assisted. So yun, hindi gagalawin yun. Kasi foreign assisted project yun. Pero yung locally funded, kung tawagin, na project that amounts to about 225 billion, we will reappropriate it to education, to health, to other departments that are also always that are in need of this funding.
The Philippine Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, earlier reported that it has released almost all of the appropriated budget for this year, with only 285.3 billion pesos remaining to be disbursed to government agencies. The chief executive earlier directed the DBM and the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, to revise DPWH's proposed 2026 budget and ensure that no insertions or anomalous items were inserted.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. dismissed the claims of controversial contractor couple Curly and Sara Diskaya on alleged anomalies in flood control projects as mere allegations, not revelations.
Yeah. Can I correct that? These are not revelations, they are allegations. That's a very different. Allegations and revelations are extremely different. So we will examine all the allegations that have been made. Ang lumalabas talaga dito, mula nung nasimulaan itong investigasyon at lahat niyan, ay patagal na talaga. Kaya ang lalim na ang lalim na nung kumbaga sa amag at napakalalim na sa sistema. It's the system of this kind of corruption has been institutionalized. And if you look at the allegations that have been made, nagsimula sa 2003 pa ito. So this has been going for 21 years. And that is why it's so deeply seated within the system. And that's why it's going to be a very, kailangan masalimuot at detalyado ang ating magiging investigasyon at para matignan.
The president emphasized that the claims would still be examined by an independent commission that the palace is set to constitute this week. President Marcos said Curly Diskaya may be placed under the government's Witness Protection Program, or WPP, if qualified, noting that all Filipinos facing recognized threats deserve state protection.
Well, there is the system of the witness protection, and if they qualify as witnesses who will testify, then the state is of course willing to provide them with protection, and if there is, and even before that, if there is a recognized threat, then of course we will protect them, not because they're making allegations, not because they are part of the investigation, but because they're Filipinos. They need to be protected against any kind of threat that they are facing.
The president also cautioned against name-dropping after House of Representatives Speaker Martin Romualdez was among those linked to the Diskaya's allegations. Corruption in flood control projects had become institutionalized for decades, he said, vowing to dismantle the system.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will announce within 2 days the members and powers of the independent commission that will investigate flood control anomalies, with subpoena authority among the tools being considered. Asked if he could hint at possible members, the president declined, saying premature disclosures would trigger speculation. President Marcos said a commission is being designed as a fact-finding body, not a judicial one. On the question of authority, President Marcos noted that there is broad agreement to grant subpoena powers to compel testimony on documents. He added there were proposals to include contempt powers against non-appearing or lying witnesses, but emphasized this may be beyond the commission's intended role. The president earlier said the panel will probe alleged anomalies involving the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, and other officials implicated in corruption.
So, mag-a-announce ako buo all the powers and authority of the independent commission that we have agreed upon and the membership of that commission. Or like one of the issues that are being talked about now are the powers. Anong powers ang ibibigay? Sa aming is that they need to have subpoena powers para makatawag sila ng witness. Ngayon, may suggestion na bigyan din ng contempt powers of to declare non-appearance or a lying witness in contempt. This is an investigative commission, so they are not there to they are not there to actually mete out punishment to whoever. They are there to find out the facts. Kung ano ang findings nila, dadalhin ngayon nila sa DOJ, dadalhin nila sa Ombudsman, kung saan. At kung hindi pa sila mag-appear, hindi pa sila sumagot doon sa akusasyon sa kanila, o hindi sila nag-appear para mag-testify, doon sila makukontempt. And that's why we have to be very, very clear that the independent commission is in fact independent. That they will no longer be, no one who has an interest in these cases will be allowed to participate except as a witness.
Embattled couple Pacifico Curly and Cesara Rowena Sara Discaya admitted to irregular dealings with contractors and alleged links to some legislators whom they identified under oath during a legislative inquiry.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the change in Senate leadership is an internal matter and is unlikely to derail the administration's legislative priorities. The Senate knows how to organize itself, he said, expressing confidence that the chamber would continue working on its agenda despite the leadership turnover. Senator Vicente Tito Soto III reassumed the Senate presidency on Monday evening, replacing Senator Francis Cheese Escudero following weeks of internal movement in the upper chamber.
Well, that remains to be seen, but I do not actually see any problem in that in terms of the legislative agenda that the executive and the legislature have agreed to undertake for this next Congress. The change of leadership is an internal matter between the senators. It has been, you have all been reporting on this at alam naman ninyo na meron talagang galaw that has been going on for the last at least a month that would bring us to this change of leadership. So I'm confident the Senate knows how to organize itself. The Senate also knows how to do the work, and if Senator Soto is now the SP again, then I do not see that it will change very much from what our agenda has, that we had agreed upon when Senator Cheese was SP.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has assured Filipinos that the government's Zero Balance Billing or ZBB program in state-run hospitals will be sustained, emphasizing that public funds are meant to deliver essential health services. The President said government spending on healthcare is a priority despite the high costs, pointing to such services as free dialysis treatments now covered. The President linked sustainability to fiscal discipline and anti-corruption measures. He noted that the public resources must not be lost to anomalies such as the alleged flood control project irregularities under probe. The ZBB program mandates PhilHealth and government hospitals to ensure patients pay nothing out of pocket for covered services, a measure designed to ease the financial burden on millions of Filipino families.
Yes. I don't do anything that I cannot sustain. Alam mo, may isip akong negosyante. It has to be self-sustaining. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
So kaya ng budget
Ba't
natin?
mo pagagawin? Kasi aasaan tao, they'll come to depend on a service. And then after 5 years, 10 years, whatever, you'll take it away from them. Diba? What's the point of that? So I never do anything. Of course, believe me, if there's one guy that goes to the numbers in detail, it's me. Tinitignan talaga namin, yes, we can sustain it.
Kakayanin natin.
Yes, it's expensive. Healthcare is expensive. But what's that money for? It's not to be kept in the bank. It's there to spend so that people can have healthcare for free or cheap. That's the whole point of PhilHealth. Lahat itong aming ginagawa, the subsidy for the 20 pesos per kilo rice, the zero billing program, all of the programs that people have asked me, sustainable ba yan? Basta't yung pera pumunta sa tama, lahat yan kaya nating bayaran. Ganun lang kasimple yan.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said he will select a new ombudsman based on recommendations and results of the interview with the candidates. President Marcos made the statement when asked whether he is considering Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla as successor of Samuel Martires. No replacement has been chosen since Martires' retirement. President Marcos said he will hold a dialogue with the Judicial and Bar Council after the interviews to hear what they have to say regarding the next ombudsman. Malacañang earlier dismissed as a mere wild imagination the insinuations that the Marcos administration is hatching a plan to put Duterte and her allies in jail by 2028. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, in a press briefing 3rd of September, said President Marcos wants the next ombudsman to be impartial.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. admitted that General Nicolas Torre III was removed as Philippine National Police or PNP chief for refusing to comply with the National Police Commission or NAPOLCOM order to reverse the reassignment of senior officials. President Marcos said he spoke with Torre several times about the NAPOLCOM order, but the latter did not comply. He emphasized a very clear chain of command, noting that a civilian authority is the overweening authority when it comes to the police.
It was because he did not agree with the directives that were coming out of NAPOLCOM. And there's a very clear chain of command, that the civilian authority is the overweening authority when it comes to the police. Because the police is essentially, technically, a civilian organization. And NAPOLCOM is the civilian authority that has the authority to monitor and to it has powers, very specific powers in terms of the appointments, and that's where they disagreed. And we cannot, alam naman natin, uniform service yan, kailangan masundan ang chain of command. So that's why, but we had many discussions about it beforehand. Hindi lang daw talaga niya magawa. So sabi ko, wala tayong magagawa kung ganun ang sitwasyon.
531, dated August 14, ordered Torre to bring back Lieutenant General Jose Melencio Nartates as Deputy Chief for Administration and Lieutenant General Bernard Banac back as Area Police Command Western Mindanao Commander. Banac and Nartates switched posts on August 6 upon Torre's order. In the resolution, the NAPOLCOM cited its power to exercise administrative control and operational supervision over the PNP under Republic Act 6975 or the Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG Act. On August 25, Torre was ordered to relinquish his post and ensure proper turnover. Nartates replaced Torre. PNP Public Information Chief Brigadier General Randolph Tuaño said upon Torre's return from his leave August 28 to September 29, he would be assigned to the Personnel Holding and Accounting Unit, which is under the PNP Directorate for Personnel and Records Management. On the 4th episode of his podcast, President Marcos clarified that he had not lost trust and confidence in Torre, even describing the former PNP chief as a good commander who was protecting his people. President Marcos confirmed that he intends to offer Torre a new government post but declined to disclose the position.
Dateline Malacañang.
For his birthday on September 13, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. expressed hopes for the continued success of government programs and the timely completion of vital projects across the country. President Marcos, who will turn 68, hoped that the government would make great strides in advancing key projects and initiatives that would benefit the Filipino people. He expressed optimism that ongoing programs, even if not completed within his term, would be continued and sustained by his successor to ensure lasting progress for the country. President Marcos also touted a positive state of the Philippine economy as well as the growing international respect for the Philippines and its people. He described the global recognition of Filipinos' exceptional skills as heartwarming.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza-de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.